everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today I have with me a man who wears many hats. I think he has found the way to fit 8 days into a 7-day week. His name is Kenneth Thomas. Let's see if I can rattle off some of these hats that he wears. He's an author of a best-selling book. He's one of my fellow podcasters. He has his own companies that he runs. He's got a movie coming out. Did I miss anything? Top father, husband? Well, did I miss anything?
No, I think you pretty much covered all. Publishing company and author, like you said, CEO of my company. Yeah, that's
awesome. Awesome. Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for making time for me and welcome you to the show. So I do want to say that.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let me get going because I only have a short amount of time and you've got a lot of stuff to do. As I've said, you got this whole little hats that you wear. But I want to start off today talking about your best-selling book that you have out called Defying the Odds. And it is an autobiography about your life. So if you could, as much as you want to without giving the whole book away, tell us a little bit about the book and what it's about.
Well, I grew up in a small town called Vicksburg, Mississippi, and went to one of the 3 high schools there, actually 4 high schools there. 2 of them were private, the other 2 were public. I went to one of the public schools there. And leading up to my time in the school system there was a divide between the education. Although we had some super teachers, not discrediting any of my teachers, some of the materials, the schools itself, I played sports. We didn't letter. Yeah, we should have lettered. They didn't have the money. You'd ask the coach about lettering. He's like, if you could buy the jacket, I'll order it. We're not far from there at Warren Central, because I went to Vicksburg High. Not far from there at Warren Central, everybody that played lettered. If you played the sport, you're varsity, get a varsity jacket.
Yeah.
Financial divide, because that was a predominantly white school. I went to a predominantly black school.
Okay.
And also just around town with businesses, very few, if any, black-owned businesses. They were only in the black neighborhoods, and they were any clubs were like a hole-in-the-wall type club. It wasn't the type that you'd be used to going to the average city or town. Again, not discrediting my people. People worked hard, people earned, people did the best that they could. Education levels were very low. The perspective of somebody succeeding and being successful was slim. We have had a lot of awesome people to defy the odds, like the title of my book, and do better. My story is in there. Of course, it's about me, but my brother Michael, he dropped out, I think, 10th grade because of the same situation. And some of the pressures of coming through the school system there, gangs, lack of concern about the youth in the city. And he went on to become the fire chief out in Monterey, California. He lives in Monterey, California.
Oh, out my way. Okay.
Yeah. The state prison system there, there's a fire department there that covers that city area and the prison. He was the chief. He retired about 2 years ago in May. But he was the chief. But he dropped out 10th grade. Got his GED, went to the military, became a sergeant, became a lieutenant. Similar situation. Since we're talking about me, similar situation.
Okay.
I made it all the way to 12th grade. I was held back in the 3rd grade. They told me I couldn't read. Here I am, an author, 4 books.
Thank you.
Graduated cum laude with a bachelor's.
Look at me now. Look at me now.
So they said I can read fine, but they grabbed me and several other African American kids at Halls Ferry Elementary, which no longer exists, and told our parents we couldn't read and held us back in the 3rd grade. And I noticed it was all African Americans except for one kid that I know that wasn't. Long story short, the book talks about these racial divides, my childhood growing up, what it was like, the little brotherhood, I would call a gang that I was a part of, keep bad gangs off our street. Some of the hurdles that I went through to defy the odds, to end up joining the United States Air Force, end up getting my bachelor's degree, end up becoming a nurse, a nursing director, starting my own business, own publishing company, my own management marketing company, Promise Management and Marketing Consultants, and so on and so on and so on.
Okay.
But those achievements, some of my heroes are in the book. General Colin Powell, my father, Willie Thomas, General Douglas MacArthur.
Mm-hmm.
His story had a big influence on me, believe it or not. They're mentioned in my leadership book as well.
Awesome.
So that's what the book is based about. My struggle, my story. And I mentioned people like my brother Michael because of his achievement. My father, I mentioned how he came from poverty. They didn't have running water. They had an outhouse. I was the youngest of 7. So my father was around 42 when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in, Oak Ridge, Mississippi. In the book, I put Redwood because it's about 7 miles from there. Most people know Redwood, so it's more familiar. But it actually Oak Ridge. His father was a logger, and he was like the 3rd out of 7. He had 2 brothers younger than him, but he had 4 older, and 1 sister in there. And they had a dirt floor outhouse. They had to go get water and boil water and everything. He had it hard, but our house, our living was it was far better. We had running water, we had air conditioning, but for the time, even though our house was considered one of the nicest ones on the street, I remember as a child, you could look through the wood floor and see the ground. We had to get that fixed years later. I was 10 years old before we got that fixed. You touch the sheetrock and fall through it. It was tough. Not bragging, but the way I'm living now, the house I'm in now, that my wife and son are enjoying, the cars that we drive,
Yeah.
So it's a blessing. But
Yes.
to get here, the story's in the book.
Gotcha.
And part 2 of that book is coming out soon too.
Okay. Now, I don't know if I'm invading too much on the book here, but listening to you talk about yourself and your brother, and all of us have neighborhoods, family structures, cities that we grow up, and some of us make it out and some of us don't. So
Right.
I'm just curious, for you, because I'm not sure if you've been back over the years or not.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think it is that was the propelling thing that got you out?
That propelled me? What propelled me was my mother and father's encouragement and teaching, and my spiritual teaching, my Christian upbringing. That's in the book. Some heroes along the way. Dr. Green, he's mentioned in the book, God rest his soul. He was a member in our church, our predominantly white church we went to. He was the first African-American doctor I'd ever laid eyes on. Now, as I got to be an older, I think it's around 18, 19, just before joining the Air Force, 2 or 3 African-American doctors made it to our town finally. And they weren't able to practice in the hospital. I think one of them was practicing in the hospital, but he wasn't on staff there.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first medical assistant at the Vicksburg Clinic, the Vicksburg Hospital, on Frontage Road. When it was on Frontage Road, it's not on Frontage Road anymore. They moved it, but it was on Frontage Road. There was a little clinic attached where all the doctor offices were that practiced in that hospital. And I noticed this one doctor, and this is public information, so I'm not like blasting anybody. I think his name was Dr. Washington, if I want to remember correct. He happened to have a little office on Washington Street at the time, I think back then. And I think it was Dr. Washington. I was so proud to see him, but I had long since met Mr. Green, Dr. Green, at our church. He was a professor at Alcorn State University, where I later ended up attending, and he was a professor at Jackson State. He went to Alcorn, taught there for a little while, then he went to Jackson State. That's all in my book. But I'm looking, I'm in church and I hear all these Caucasian people, a lot of them are friends of our family, friends, and I'm there because there was a few Black families at this church that my dad ended up being a part of, and we were going there. It was a Christian church, but very few African Americans, and they had some strange beliefs that I'm not going to get into when it came down to mixed race dating and all that, which I later look back and say, okay, but you're Christians, but mixed race dating and dancing, which eventually they got over. But as I was growing up, it was a no-no. Anyway, I would hear people saying, Dr. Green this and Dr. Green that. I'm, who's this Dr. Green? And I look and I see this African-American guy. And I became really close friends with his son. I was like, Marcus, his son name is Marcus. I was, is your dad's a doctor? I said, he's a medical doctor? He says a PhD. He has a PhD, he's a professor. I said, wow. And talking to Mr. Green and listening to him talk, it encouraged me.
Okay.
it encouraged me. Things my mother and father told me about not giving up and propelling me forward with spiritual belief and telling me that I'm as good as the next guy. And race doesn't matter when it comes down to your effort and what you do. That's exactly what will propel you to be a winner. What you do, not your skin. And they explained to me the things that would hold me back. And there was many examples of it in my hometown. But I was too headstrong like my mom and too stubborn like my dad to let that stuff stop me.
Yeah.
And by the grace of God, I made it through that. I pushed forward and made it through.
Awesome. So is the Air Force, was that the first step to getting out of Mississippi?
Yes, it was. Air Force was the first step of getting out. My dad pushed all of us to go into service and get our education. Okay. And like I said, I'm the youngest of 7. I have a brother that went in the Army, one that went in the Navy, one that went in the Marines. The second to the oldest was in Army ROTC. The oldest didn't go in, and my sister didn't go in because, as you probably know, 70s, 80s, kind of taboo. Not a lot of women went in. Yeah. You know, like I ended up being a male nurse and becoming a nursing director. I remember in 1989, prior to 1989, there weren't very many male nurses. I dare say before 1998, in 1995, you've been hard pressed to find a female to find a male nurse in America. Yes. And in 1995, you'd have been hard pressed to find a male nurse. Very few in certain states. By the time 98, 99 rolled around, you start seeing them. See, I was in pre-med biology, but because I was in the service and I got called away, different, of course, I did Desert Storm back in 90, but Operation Noble Eagle when the towers went down. Yes, yeah. Any other crisis in between, after getting off active duty, I was in the reserve and I was in guard. So they called for different things. And I couldn't focus specifically on my lessons. So when I got back from duty, I decided to go on and become a nurse because it was faster, quicker. I could get that done and then go on to be a doctor, right? So after I got to do that, I had so much fun. I enjoyed it. And I realized there was less stress, okay? Less stress. I was like, hey, I like this. I just worked my way up the ladder in this. And I did. I did wound care. I started out charge nurse, eating shift supervisor, wound care, assistant manager, assistant director of wound care, then director of several assisted living facilities. And from that, I retired in 2019 because my business, promise management and consulting, was doing well. And I said, I can let this go. Didn't know the pandemic was coming. and yes, there's bittersweet there. As a nurse and having the military blood, the Air Force blood, I want to be there and be a part of the hero, But I had a little baby boy, I have a son that was born in March, this March of this year. Okay. And then I have a son that just turned 4 who was here last year and, during the pandemic. And I was thankful that I didn't have to go out there and be exposed to this. I could spend time with my family here at home. My wife works from home mostly. She works in corporate America, but she works from home mostly. It was a blessing to be able to be here and quarantine with them. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Work for myself. Right. Greatest feeling.
Now, I want to interrupt you real quick because I am a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force. So I grew up as a dependent, but I always like to ask when I see somebody who did some time in the military, what do you think the biggest learning lesson being in the military has taught you? How has it enhanced your life?
You're only going to succeed if you have drive. There's no one in the military succeeding without drive. I don't care who you know. Your dad could be a general. That'll get you so far. And I've seen it. I've seen people who had parents who were officers, colonels. I don't know if I know anybody whose dad was a general. I know some colonels' kids, lieutenant colonels' kids, captains' kids. Let me tell you what. If you don't have drive and motivation, it gets you nowhere. It's a different world. The United States military is a different world. It taught me something that I knew, but it personified it. It made the idea real. It humanized the idea of that you are responsible for your destiny. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And mama and daddy, you can't ride their coattail. You ever heard the cliches on the different shows. Your mama is not here with you now. Yeah, well, guess what? That's about right.
Yes,
So
indeed.
That was a clear definition of my experience in the military that helped.
Yes.
You have to do it yourself.
Yes, indeed. The military creates a different breed of individual, but it has a lot of important tools that it teaches. And I used to watch my father, and I've watched certain friends along the way. And it's a very different mindset than somebody who has been a civilian their entire life. And I don't think people notice that. But me being, kind of in, I got to peek at it. So I always like to ask. But let me move on, because I got a little bit more time. So you mentioned the books, Black Rock Publishing. Yes. So I want to talk about you now. Does that encompass Define the Odds, or? Yes.
Define the Odds. Black Rock Publishing is a subsidiary to the Define the Odds book series, and Black Rock Publishing actually is a subsidiary of Prominence Management Consultant. Prominence Management and Consulting LLC is my company that I'm CEO of, and it's the brainchild, and it's the parent. I should say it's the parent of everything that I do. So Define the Odds. Although you can find out all of this that I'm telling you about what I'm doing through Define the Odds, and that would be at Define the Odds by Kenneth Thomas, no spaces. Define the Odds by Kenneth Thomas. So if you go to that, you'll go to my page and you'll see everything, including the movie that my company, Promise Management and Consulting, has recently produced or co-produced, called Can't Get Right. And if any of you listen to the radio or are familiar with a lot of comedians out of Atlanta, you got Shawty, like Shawty, what my name is. He's the star of it. You have Marvin Hunter, very hilarious guy. Rodney Perry, who's the sidekick for what's her name? Well, she had her own show, not Moesha, Monica, the comedian that had her own show. She started as the mother in Precious. She started Monique. When she had her show, Rodney Perry was her sidekick. For those of you who may not know him, but I'm sure many of you know him from his comedy. He's in the show as well, and lots of other great comedians. D-Ray. It's gonna be really funny. It's supposed to come out next month. Because of COVID, the venue is being vetted. The theater isn't off the table, but because of COVID, the venue, Marcus Head is the director and the executive producer, and he is determining whether we're just going to stick with some of the other channels, TV channels that we're talking with, TV One, channels like that, or if it's going to go on other venues. So I don't want to speak too much on that because I don't want to ruin that for you guys. You'll know it's going to be advertised and you'll see it all over the place. Can't Get Right. Check it out. My company, Prominence Management Consulting, co-producer on that movie. So
how does a man just stumble into being a movie producer? How did that happen?
No, you don't stumble in it. God puts you where you need to be. See, I invest. Some in the stock, but if you listen to my podcast show, I preach and teach. Don't jump into the stock market thinking you're going to get rich unless you've got a tip of knowledge about what's going on. Like I've given people, I said, listen, and I said this during COVID. I said, listen, 2021 is going to be a year for green energy and clean energy. Most Republicans aren't going to support that under Trump. You're not going to, this isn't a dig at Trump or Republicans. This isn't political. It's a fact. If you're a Republican, you know this. You're not going to get a grand support for green and clean energy. Democrats will. I said, if Biden wins, and I believe he will, and he did. Even when Mike, the mayor out of New York, Michael Bloomberg, when he was running, Mike's going to get it. Ken, you're crazy. Mike's going to win. I said, listen, Joe's going to win. Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, put a little respect on his name, right? President Joe Biden. And Kamala Harris, it was very pleasant to find out that she was going to be the vice. That's my wife, Sora. My wife's
AKA. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm tying this in now to where I'm going with this. I told people, clean energy, green energy, 2021, look out for it. Now, even though things were slow, because he has a lot on his plate, Now they're talking about it.
Yes.
I said, invest in anything moderate or small or medium that you can get in on at a good rate with clean or green energy. Solar paneling, clean water, water-powered engines, battery-powered engines, battery-powered cars. Get in on it now. I haven't mentioned one, and it was at 70 cents a share. It was Ocean Technology, Ocean Pacific Technology. Check it out. They were at 70 cents. I think they're like $5 or $6 today. So if you got in at 70 cents, depending on how much you put in, think about it. So now, clean and green energy, I gave that tip. So back to what you were saying. Since I gave investment tips on my show, a good friend of mine, Marvin Hunter, who's also a comedian, like I said, in the movie, he came to me and let me know about the movie and that they were seeking some small partner investments.
Oh, okay.
So I spoke with the executive producer, Marcus Head, and we had a chat, came to terms, came to an agreement, and I was in.
Awesome.
So that's just a blessing from God, so that's first production. And we're talking about new productions for other movies and also this live is in live color comedy skit, kind of like the old In Living Color, but in live color. He's got that coming up soon. We're in talks about that, me being a part of that. But that's how one stumbles into being a producer.
Awesome. I think that's one thing that our community doesn't fully grasp, the need to diversify when it comes
to diversify.
Yes.
Diversify. You hit it on the head. So how does a management marketing consulting company like Promise Management Marketing and Consulting get involved with wound care consulting, which I do? I was a wound care manager, a wound care director. Management, real estate property. I own real estate, lots of it. So I manage real estate. Producing, I just told you how I got in that. You know what I'm saying?
Blessings.
How do you get into producing and how do you get into a publishing company and being an author? I've been writing books for a long time. I've just had the time to sit down and pump those books out and actually be blessed with the finance to get those out there and get those books published. And after my wife and I got my first book published, we realized, hey, this is something we can do for others and help them get there. So we started Black Rock Publishing. And my wife put out 4 books as well. She has some excellent books. When you go to my site, you got to look at her books. Rising Above the Pain is one of them. You're going to love that one by C. Brandon Thomas. Rising Above the Pain. Women with endometriosis or other issues that's causing them not to be able to be fertile at the time, or their fears that they may not be fertile. You got to read that because, my wife put it out there. She put herself out there and wrote about that. Now we're blessed with 2 biological kids. Read the book. Guys, read Rising Above the Pain, part 1 and 2. If you get part 2, part 1 is in it by C. Brandon Thomas. Read it, guys. You're going to learn a lot about your women. Might scare you a little bit, but you're going to get educated today. And women, if you have issues, you're going to feel like you have an ally in my wife. And you're gonna say, wow, if they can be blessed, we can do it too. And we have 2 biological sons now. Excellent book, gotta read that. Another book of hers, My Bohemian Father. I don't have a copy of that or not. I'm down in my office in my basement. I don't have a copy of hers, but I do have it. But this is mine, Define the Odds.
Okay, awesome.
That's me, Define the Odds. But it's stories of my Bohemian father, Hansel Brannon, her father. His journey over here to get to, because she's half Bohemian, Bahamas.
Okay.
She has siblings over there. That's where her father's from. His struggle getting here. Some funny stories, some scary stories, some bad stories, and some truths. He made it here on the struggle. He defied the odds. Okay?
Awesome.
He got here, started his own business. It wasn't easy. Great book. Got to check that out.
Awesome. See, and I'm just listening to you talking. I said, see, now you should also give some relationship tips for the guys, because you just sat there and supported and uplift your wife. And I'm putting her out there, and that is so beautiful. And that is the whole essence of marriage right there. So I just enjoyed that right there. I wanted, before we wrap up here, I want to get to your podcast. Now you have a podcast. Yes.
So, My 2 Cents by Kenneth Thomas. When you go and look on just about any any genre that you listen to your podcast on, Spotify, Anchor. I'm on I think there's, if I'm correct, that's about 9, maybe 10 podcast spots to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
At least in America that we can get a hold of. I think it's about 9.
Mm-hmm.
A whole bunch. People think it's hundreds. I don't think it's that many. I think it's about 9.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 9, you can get me on about 6 out of that 9. Anchor and Spotify being 2 of them. It's My 2 Cents by Kenneth Thomas. When you go on there, you're going to see 3 others. My 2 Cents, the name My 2 Cents, have nothing to do with me. When I came up with the name and I got mine started through Anchor FM, I saw, oh, somebody has a My 2 Cents. Different logo, different symbol, different story, different show. And I saw it was about 2 or 3, so it didn't bother me because it wasn't a whole bunch. It was only like 2 or 3 people using that name. So I use, and you have to do this if you're finding me, it's My 2 Cents by Kenneth Thomas. My mother will pop up. It's me. You'll see it's me, and that's what you listen to. My 2 Cents by Kenneth Thomas. It's a self-help podcast. It's to motivate others. I give financial tips. I tell people I'm not a financial expert or guru, but I've done well for myself. And I rather say, if you're going to find out how to hit a punch, you talk to a boxer. If you want to learn how to run fast, you run with a racer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have degrees. You can see I have degrees, even though I don't do that like from a degree standpoint or certificate standpoint. I'm giving you real life experience and advice. It's open line. You can write me in there. You can chat back. You can write back, leave me a message, what have you. Ask questions. Let me know. Hey, do your next podcast about this. I have guests on. It's a great show. Check it out.
How often does it come out?
Every Thursday, usually, and sometimes it comes out a little early on a Wednesday, on a Friday, because of my guest. Because I could record it, say today, and post it for next Thursday. I could do that. But sometimes it's so great, I can't wait. It's a great time. So I'm like, I'm posting this today. I'm on there. And, see me every Thursday, but you might hear from me on Wednesday. You might hear from me on Tuesday because I have fun. And they got to know about this, man. This is great. I had some cool guests on there. I had a Air Force major on there. I've had some other authors. I've had some entertainers. Asia Star, who's also in the movie. I've had Libby Bailu, who did my, by the way, that jingle at the beginning.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I heard that.
My 2 cents is always good. That's Libby Bailu. She did my jingle. So
awesome.
She has Libby Bailu. She's out. Check her out. Asia Star's out. Check her out. She's hip hop. Sings a little bit too. She's mostly hip hop. I've had them on the show. I've had School Principal Johnny Cook. Check that out. We're talking about COVID education. Look, we get raw, okay? Respectful. I talk about spirituality without stepping on feet. I'm a Christian. Jesus Christ is my savior, but I don't step on Muslims' feet. I respect them. I respect the belief. I respect the religion. And I'll tell you this, and I'll be probably the first Christian you ever hear this from. I'm Christian. We all don't know what we don't know. Think about something you knew when you was a kid. Mm-hmm. That you no longer believe. Look, my parents died thinking Pluto, not just my parents, scientists, rocket scientists died thinking Pluto was a planet. Now there's no longer 9 in the solar system. Blow your mind with that. Mm-hmm. Okay, Pluto is a ball of gas. It's no longer considered a planet. It was for the history of America and astrology before America, even over in Britain, the 9th planet. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, it's not a planet. Mm-hmm. There's so much we don't know. So my religion is this, and my God live. Okay, so don't disrespect anybody. You might be saying I'm Christian. You might be saying praise God today. You might be saying praise Allah tomorrow, or vice versa.
That's right.
Vice versa. We don't know. We don't know. Show respect. Both religions. Most religions say respect other people. Just do that. Love and respect other people. Just do that.
That's right. Awesome. See, that respect that come from that Southern upbringing, and then that was reinforced with the military.
That's right. That's right.
You got the respect. So tell me real quick before I go, you got to be working on something that you ain't really told us about. Give me a sneak preview or something.
Well, I'm doing mostly investing and spending time with my boys. I'm looking into getting into development. Hey, real estate's hot right now. It's not going to stay hot. I already have real estate, but I'm talking about I want to get into actually building real estate construction. I want to get into development. I want to develop some property, do some development. So I'm actually doing that, and I'm finishing up another children's book, and I'm always looking at that next book. You know, I enjoy writing, spending time with my boys. I got my little 6-month-old. He just turned 6 months on the 23rd. I got my little 4 years old. He just turned 4. Actually, he turned 4 this month on the 16th. He turned 4, had a birthday. We're celebrating all month long. Then my little 6-month-old just turned 6 months on the 23rd of this month, you know. And I'm enjoying these boys and praising God. I don't have to punch a clock and do a 9 to 5 for somebody else. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I did that 4 years. Okay. I didn't retire to 2019. I did that. Okay. Now my company, Performance Management Consultant, preceded that. But until it had its legs and were able to grow and sustain my lifestyle, I pushed the clock. I punched the clock like everybody. Well, I was salaried, but you know what I mean. I did a 9 to 5. So all respect to 9 to 5ers. But keep in mind, what I'm doing now is enjoying life. I'm thanking God for where I'm at.
Well earned. Well earned. Well, as I like to, because Dad did train me well, I want to say thank you for your service. I want to make sure I say that. Thank you for your service.
Do it again if I could. I really would.
Really? Awesome.
No kidding. And you'll get that from most airmen. Shout out to the Air Force. Respect for Marines, Army, and Navy. I actually did 1 year in the Army Reserve, 0405. Didn't care much for it. Switched back to the Air Force. Finished up at Dobbins Air Force Reserve in 2010. But much respect to the Army. I did Army RTC in high school. Like I said, 2 years in the Army Reserve, really technically. But most of my life from 1990 to 2010, most of my service was United States Air Force or Air Force component, like the Air Guard, Air Reserve. But yeah, that is one thing. I'd do it again if I could. I'd do it again. Loved it.
Well, you know, I'm partial. As a little girl, I used to see my dad go out the front door in that blue uniform. So I'm partial.
Go blue. Aim high.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. See what we got here.
We got lottery. I'm about to win some money.
Oh no. I'm gonna ask you for a loan. What you talking about?
Wait a minute. I thought you were about to make a small contribution.
Okay, here's the random question. What is one thing you refuse to share?
One thing I refuse to share. I refuse to share my life.
I would hope so.
That's a little joke. I'm serious about that. But that's not exactly what you were asking. Let's see. Okay. One thing I refuse to share. You know what? On a normal scale, on a normal plane of things, other than the obvious, I ain't sharing my life, you know. My food, I'd share my food with people. You know, money, I'd help others. I can't think of anything that I wouldn't share. Isn't that what we're here for? You know, I honestly can't.
Some people don't get that though. Some people don't understand that.
Yeah, so I can't think of anything we wouldn't share, other than the obvious. You know, I'm not sharing this. I'm not sharing that. You know, I don't share my toothbrush. You know what I mean? You know, obvious, right? But again, I don't think that's what you're asking. You're saying like, okay, some people don't want to share their wealth, or some people don't want to share their knowledge, or you know, time. I can't think of anything.
Well, I will take that. I will take that. And we're gonna replay this for the wife because she's probably on the other side of the door. He said he better say that. That's the right answer. He better say that. Yeah. Keep you off the doghouse for the night. So
hold on.
Did I do good? Did I do good?
She's not down here. I don't know where she is. She's somewhere in the house probably, but she's not down here. No, but she supports me. All right, she's my rock.
Well, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Man of Many Hats, please tell us how we pick up the book, how we catch the podcast, how we catch up with you, how we pick up your wife's books. Just tell us everything.
And that's the thing about it. We get asked that a lot, and the quickest, fastest answer and best answer we found is the link to the webpage on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, okay? I'm on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Define the Odds by Kenneth Thomas. And that's going to be at Define the Odds by Kenneth Thomas. Define the odds at DEFYINGTHEODDSBYKENNETHTHOMAS. No spaces. Kenneth Thomas. No spaces. Define the odds by Kenneth Thomas. Check me out on Instagram. Reach out to me. Check out my show, My 2 Cents by Kenneth Thomas. Check me out on Facebook. Hit like, join my page as a person who really wants to get news feeds on what we're doing. You have any questions, anything I can help you with, my self-help podcast show, that's what it's there for. It's not my show, it's yours. I'm just the host. Hit me up.
Awesome. And then let's keep our eye open for this movie coming out in November.
That's right. Can't Get Right. Right spelled RITE. Support it. It's Black owned and operated, but it's for everybody. You're gonna love it. It's funny. It's really funny. Can't Get Right. Starting shouty. Shouty what my name is.
We need some laughs. We need some laughs. This world is fighting with each other, so we need some humor.
You love it. Oh, no profanity. Funny, no profanity. Okay. Marcus Head, the director and executive producer, made sure of that. He's a Christian. You're gonna love it. All right. You're gonna love it. Can't Get Right.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I have truly enjoyed my time with you today. And I'm gonna go and call my dad and say, I met me another Air Force man.
That's right. And salute. Tell him thank you for his service when you talk to him.
Awesome. Well,
thank you for having me.
You kiss the wife and the babies for me, and you keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You too.
I just appreciate your time and your excellence, and I just love to see it. I just love to see it.
I'm blessed to be here.
Awesome. Well, that is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time. Oh.